Welcome back, everybody. Your two favorite wild rascals. We're back here to review the most anticipated movie for a lot of people this year, one that I've been looking forward to a lot, and a movie that's not only in theaters, but on HBO Max. And we got to enjoy The Suicide Squad on HBO Max. James Gunn, obviously, his version of what he wanted to see from this DC film. Of course, we saw David Ayer's Suicide Squad back in 2016, somewhere around there, which had really high expectations based on the initial trailer that we saw, but it didn't live up to any of the hype. So it was interesting for me to see what James Gunn was going to do with this one, to like change it and put his own stamp on things. And I think he accomplished that with The Suicide Squad after watching it.
I've been really excited to see this film. You know, James Gunn was fired from Marvel back in 2018 from some old tweets he had. I don't know, he said something like from back in the day he got fired. So he was done with Marvel. So he came to the dark side, being the DC universe, and his spin on The Suicide Squad. This is not a sequel, but I guess a reboot of sorts. And this film doesn't really deny or really say anything about the first film, even though they brought in some other characters to the new one. So it still exists, I guess, but they don't really say. James Gunn at the helm for this film. He wrote and directed The Suicide Squad, and you can tell this has his touch on the film. It's a really fun movie. It doesn't take itself seriously. Great action, great kills, and a really great ensemble of actors and actresses in this film.
Really terrific performances throughout. We get to see so many characters, especially in just the beginning scene alone. We get the big introduction with our good old friend, old Uncle Merle.
Uncle Merle's back.
Michael Rooker's back. And he is back with James Gunn. They've worked together before, of course. So they're reunited, and he gets to lead off the movie, which was pretty cool. I was like, damn, maybe Rooker's going to have like his own, like his movie here. So I won't tell you how things go, but yeah, we get to see a lot of characters in the beginning, and then as the movie goes on, there's so much killing going on that we lose characters fast and furiously. And James Gunn set the tone really right away with that whole beach assault scene. Like you know what you were getting into from this, and it never let up after that. This movie, trust me when I say this movie is gory as hell. This could have been a B movie horror film. Just looking at all the blood and guts, people getting decapitated left and right, ripped in half,
intestines,
just everything you can think of is shown up on the screen. And it's a big reason why I had a smile on my face throughout the whole film, and I was like super into it, and I was just smiling. So yes, the gore and the kills are amazing in this film. Some really creative stuff here.
Yeah, you could definitely tell he's showing some love to Trauma, where, he part of his early career being with Trauma, and then Lloyd Kaufman, being the head of Trauma too, makes a little cameo without spoiling too much. But you can tell, yeah, exactly. You can definitely tell that Gunn is showing his love for Trauma and how it set up his career early on, and it really goes there. It gets violent as fuck early on in the film. A huge battle scene in the intro, and it really sets the tone. Really, what Gunn is going for. He's going for balls to the wall action like you would see out of the 70s or 80s, and just have a really great time with it. You can tell the actors and actresses in this film are having a fun time, a great time doing this compared to the first film, David Ayer's. It was definitely darker and more serious. This is more fun and action-filled and bonkers at the very end of the film.
They go balls to the wall throughout the whole film. There's really an expert cast here. We have Idris Elba playing Bloodsport, who is the... not that character, not the Van Damme one from the 80s movie. No, this is a different one.
Hey, you're looking like a Frank Dukes. Are you Frank Dukes?
Are you Frank Dukes? We could quote that movie all day, and maybe we will do a separate Zoom just to do all our Bloodsport impressions and all the Frank Dukes and all the classic lines from the film. But we're talking about Suicide Squad. So yeah, Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba. He's a really good shot. He's pretty badass in this movie. I'd say Idris Elba was one of the best parts of the movie for sure. He has a lot of of the big moments in the film. He's your front and center. He's your star, and he delivers. He did a great job, I thought, throughout this movie. Yeah. I love the dynamic between him and Peacemaker. Just how funny that was, like how they were always like trying to get back at each other at every chance they could, and they hated each other. And that dynamic between the two members really went out throughout the whole film, and was really provided some good comedic relief, I'd say, from all the carnage going on in the background.
Yeah, Idris Elba. I mean, he can do no wrong. He's an actor that continuously gets better and better in each role, and it's cool seeing him in like a superhero flick. He really steals the show in this, and you can see everybody works, behind him as he's the leader. Basically, the setup is they get the Task Force X, they call it, or the Suicide Squad. Amanda Waller gets Task Force X. Basically, they have to go on this mission to this old Nazi research facility with Project Starfish, and they basically have to go in there and blow it up. And that's like the setup of the film and how they get there. And it's really great about this film is you get to spend a little time with each character. You get to know them a little bit, but it's not excessive or anything. But you get to meet the character a little bit, where they're at. And a lot of these characters I wasn't familiar with, like Polka Dot Man being a villain in Batman. It was cool seeing how his character arc was. And the actor did a really great job in that role. And, Nathan Fillion's character, and they have a bunch of people they introduce in this movie. Pete Davidson, and they have John Cena's character, and a bunch of people that get killed early on without giving too much away. That was really surprising, much like we were talking Deadpool. But it was really, really great setup, and I love what they did with this film and how they went into battle really fast, and shows you what kind of action movie and atmosphere that Gunn is really creating.
Yeah, he really created his own Dirty Dozen type of war film in this.
Yep.
It was really fun. It made you feel like you were watching old like 70s, 80s war movie going through the Vietnam jungle. It had that vibe, and the violence was awesome in it. One of the things I love about James Gunn he cast Stallone to do the voice of King Shark or Nanue in the film, and it's pretty funny. Of course, this movie reminded me a lot of Rambo, and just sort of how gory and violent those films became, and how it started out with John Rambo coming back from Vietnam, and obviously we're in the jungles here, and Stallone gets to return to that, and he has some awesome scenes. Basically, he's really, he's playing King Shark. He's just kind of dumb. All he wants is to eat people and eat whatever's in front of him. But then he meets some of the other people in the Suicide Squad, and they form this relationship. And he forms a bond with them, so he doesn't want to eat them anymore. He works with them, and then it's just cool with all the dynamic with all the characters. There's so many, like you mentioned. It was cool seeing. We had characters returning. Even Rick Flag is back in this one. Joel Kinnaman,
I love him.
He's back. Yeah, he was really good in this movie. I like what they did with this character here. Like you said, everybody gets their time to shine. His character's like backstory. We got to learn more about that and where he came from.
Yep.
And then introducing us to even characters that we hadn't heard before. John Cena's Peacemaker, who is one of the huge parts of this film. He had some really great work, I thought. And he's funny. Like, he's just naturally funny in the role, just how he can play stupid, obviously. And he's also massive in the movie. He's the biggest dude in the movie. He looks like he can beat up pretty much anybody.
Yeah, he's jacked.
Yeah, he's jacked in the film.
Yeah, I liked what they did with Rick Flag. The first movie, he was like more hardcore and over the top. In this movie, it felt like he was more relaxed. And he had some comedic bits in there with John Cena's character, which I thought was pretty funny. But you could tell Joe Kinnaman had more fun in this time around. I think it's the whole atmosphere that Gunn probably has on set. Like, everybody's just there to do a job, but they're having a great time, like friends and family. And what Gunn does really well is he's putting all these mismatched characters, and they gel together, really because of a good script. Like how these characters work. They're all different, personalities, different backgrounds, all criminals in different ways, but they kind of gel together and they have really good chemistry. He did that with Guardians too.
He really shows off in this film. He shows you what he can do with these big casts. At this point, he's the man to hire for a movie if you're going to have a big cast and you want everybody to have a fleshed out story and feel like that you saw them on screen for enough time. We get a couple characters that we don't see much of, but for the most part, it follows a lot of people, and he's very good at juggling all that and these multiple things that are happening at the same time during the movie. We go back in time at some points, and then we go forward, and we kind of see how it meshes up. So he does a really good job. Just the pace of the film was good. At over 2 hours. Some films, by the time the hour 30 to hour 45 mark comes up, you're like, all right, we need to wrap this up. This film felt like it was the perfect length. I love the conclusion and how the big battle scene at the end with basically a kaiju, we'll say, like Godzilla. It's a different thing that happens. We won't spoil it, but it's a badass scene. I just loved how everything in James Gunn's story came around in the end. Like everybody's stories really synced up, and it showed you how they had to work together. And I liked how it ended, and just where everybody ended up, their characters ended up. And I can't wait to see more out of these characters. Right away when the movie ended, I wanted to see a sequel. So I hope we get to see that.
I hope James Gunn stays at DC and does some more flicks. I really did something different. He got fired from Marvel, went to the opposite side, wrote a really great script, kind of rebranded the whole Suicide Squad, threw in a bunch of new characters, brought in other characters from the first film, and had a really great time with it, and made it really interesting. A lot of throwbacks and nods, a whole different atmosphere he brought to this, and you can tell they had a fun time making it. And I had a really great time watching this film as well. I didn't know what to expect. Over the top gore, action in your face, and a really bonkers third act having to do with this huge character that really has to do with the whole story. But it just goes balls to the wall, insane at the end, and ridiculous, but done in a really great way.
Really done well by James Gunn. Even the small character like Ratcatcher, who would just be a throwaway character in any other film, he really gave her some time to shine in the film too. And she's like one of the most minor characters in the film. So yeah, James Gunn just does a great job directing all these actors. And like you said before, everybody's having the time of their lives on sets. You could tell with Harley Quinn, her performance, she just went for it, and like it was her best performance as Harley Quinn so far that we've seen for sure. Absolutely. He gave her some really good stuff there to do with the whole warlord or leader president guy that she got with in the movie. And yeah, just her loyalty to the Suicide Squad and how that whole story came along was awesome too. Yeah, so I love this movie for all the characters. Without the characters, if it was just the mindless action, although it's awesome and all the gore and stuff, if it was just that, there wouldn't be any heart to it, then you wouldn't care as much. But just how well he juggled all these characters and the story and how everything came together, like boosted this movie up really high for me.
Yeah, this is a key example. If you have a good director and good writer that writes a good script, you're going to have a great film in the DCU, DC universe. And this movie is it. So they need to keep using this formula here and continue to make great films and bring back the love to the dark side of the DC universe, because it's been getting a lot of hate. A few good films like Shazam, Batman, but a lot of them are pretty shitty. So this is a key example how to make them right. So kudos to James Gunn and the entire cast. I had really great time with this film. It was gory, bloody, balls to the wall, really great practical effects. Cinematography, directing was really great. Some of the soundtrack, I didn't really think it was cohesive with the movie. It didn't really work for me. I was kind of let down actually, because I loved Gunn's soundtracks and all his movies, but this one I didn't love as much. So that's just a minor complaint. Everything else I had a really great time with. I want to see more of these characters. I'm really hoping that Gunn returns to direct and write another Suicide Squad movie. I'm definitely on board with that. So that being said, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 weasel hair pieces.
The Suicide Squad had all these expectations going in. Everybody was super pumped to see this film. Since seeing all the set pictures last year and the making of the film and how all the actors were talking about it, saying that they were having the time of their lives filming it. And that's what I really felt when I was watching this film. I was having a lot of fun seeing everything happening on screen, from the crazy characters that James Gunn, came up with and introduced in the film. Just all the Easter eggs he throws in, like he throws his brother in there as a character, and, all the DC Easter eggs throughout the film. Just so many awesome scenes. Nathan Fillion's character in the beginning that had me laughing so much, just with what his character can do and how funny he made that scene. And yeah, right from the beginning, the movie grabs you and it never lets you go. It's pretty action packed. There are a few times when it slows down, but for the most part, it's all action and fun. I had a great time at this movie. I recommend everybody go check this out. Go see it at the theater if you can. I'd love to see this on the theater. I watched it at home on HBO Max, but yeah, this would be really fun to see up on the big screen for sure.
Yeah, it's a good summer blockbuster for sure. It's a film you have to see in the theater to really get that overall atmosphere that James Gunn's throwing at us. really pounding score and action in your face, edge of your seat movies. So it's the best to, enjoy that in the theater. But if you can't, you just stream on HBO Max and just as good, and you get the whole vibe that they're throwing at you. And definitely one of the better films of the year, and definitely one of the best of the summer, the blockbuster season.
I had a great time with the Suicide Squad from James Gunn. He came over to DC and killed it for his first time. I can't wait to see him come back and do the sequel. I have a feeling this movie will be really successful. We'll have a good word of mouth. We'll make tons of money, as it should. I had a fun time, a really terrific movie that James Gunn put together. And I am also going to give The Suicide Squad a 4 out of 5 polka dot man hair pieces.
So we're interested in hearing your guys' thoughts on the brand new film, The Suicide Squad, helmed by Mr. James Gunn himself. He's back and he's better than ever. There's some really great cameos in this movie, but I want to hear from you guys. What did you like about the film? What didn't you like about it? Who's your favorite cameo? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe.
So this has been your 2 favorite wild rascals. We were busy storming the beaches at Corto Maltese to find that crazy big starfish that's roaming around there.
Until next time.
Cheers!